that it's on.
I guess I'll get the confirmation.
Now it's good. It started.
Okay, so let's start with roll call.
Stunek.
Here.
Pritchett.
Here.
Bevins.
Here.
Badeau.
Here.
Erickson.
Here.
Lampert.
Here.
Johnson.
Here.
Mink.
Present.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. All right, that brings us to the approval of the agenda.
Mr. Chair,
Jan?
I would like to add that we do unfinished business, add voice vote for Tad Erickson.
Okay, we'll add that to 8C, unfinished business, the recorded vote to appoint Tad Erickson to the City Council. Any other changes?
No.
All right, motion to approve then.
Seconded.
We have a motion and a second by Pritchett. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Next up, the consent calendar. Notice to public, all matters listed are considered routine by the council and will all be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless good cause is shown prior to the time the council votes on the motion to be adopted by roll call.
Move to approve.
Second.
A motion by Pritchett, second by Lambert. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote by roll call.
Stunek.
Yes.
Pritchett.
Yes.
Bevins.
Yes.
Badeau.
Yes.
Erickson.
Yes.
Lampert.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes, and that motion carries. That brings us to the sixth item on our agenda, presentations. And here's a presentation on basic emergency management certification presentation. Come on up.
Members of the council, Mr. Chair, my name is Mark Marcy. I'm a regional coordinator for Minnesota Homeland Security and Emergency Management, and I'm here today to present Chief Holmes with his certificate of completion for the emergency management certification courses. So I have a letter here from my boss, Director Joe Kelly, that I'd like to read. If that's all right. Excuse me. HSEM applauds your hard work and efforts in Homeland Security and Emergency Management training. Training is a key component of the HSEM mission of helping Minnesota prepare for, respond to, and recover from emergencies and disasters. The skill set required to be an effective emergency manager is constantly changing and growing. The challenges of securing our communities and managing emergencies continue to grow, as do the demands to stay current with technology, doctrine, and policy development. And with that, just a few short words. Chief Holmes has put in a significant amount of time to achieve the certification, approximately 150 hours, not including travel time to and from the various training locations around the state of Minnesota. And we're very proud to welcome him to those to that organization and having him licensed, or I'm sorry, certified and a part of our organization. So with that, excuse me, I present Chief Holmes with his certificate here. And thank you, Chief.
Gotta have a
A
speech.
few words, Tim? A few words?
Gotta have a speech.
I don't have a speech. Yeah, like Mark said, it's just it's an honor to have completed this. It's the first step in their emergency management education. This, and then they have a director's level. So, like you said, about 150 hours plus travel time to and from the cities. A lot of it was at Camp Ripley, both online and then classroom. So, I'm excited to have it done, and I think it's just a great piece of our commitment to the community to make sure that we're trained and educated to handle these situations that may arise.
Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you.
So Tim, does this mean you'll be able to help train the public?
There's pieces of that. It's more involved with the emergency management of incidents, but there's pieces of it that talk about training and evaluation. So yeah, there's some pieces that we can do. We have a few things that we've implemented throughout the few years that are kind of pieces of this, the mass notification through the Everbridge that we partnered with Crow Wing County on. So those are just pieces of the preparedness side of the emergency management.
Well, thank you for doing it.
Any other questions, comments?
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Thanks a lot, Tim. That brings us to number 7 on the agenda, council committee reports. We'll start with the Safety and Public Works Committee. Alderman Bevins.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have 5 agenda items this evening. Item number 1 is the event street closure application for the Tour of Lakes bike ride. The motion is to accept staff's recommendation and approve the attached application under the condition that the applicant works with local businesses with private parking areas to ensure that they are signed for no Tour of Lakes parking, and that the applicant submit requests for traffic control 1 week prior to the event, and I so move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Item number 2 is a resolution for voting by roll call on the advancement of municipal state aid street funds. The motion is to adopt the attached resolution in which advances municipal state aid street funds in the total amount of $1,294,000, and I so move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to advance state street aid funds. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote by roll call.
Stunek,
Yes.
Pritchett.
Yes.
Bevins.
Yes.
Badot,
Yes.
Erickson,
Yes.
Lampert,
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes, that motion carries.
Thank you. Item number 3 is improvement 19-19, that's Northwest 3rd Street and Jackson Street improvements. Consideration of proposal for engineering services and construction administration. The motion is accept staff's recommendation and approve the proposal from Bolton and Mank in the total amount not to exceed $36,440 for the design and construction administration services for improvement 1919, and I so move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Item number 4 is the tree policy revision. As you recall, this was in front of us 2 weeks ago. This has now come forward with the cotton-bearing tree grandfather clause. That's item number 7 with the red in there. The motion is to recommend, to accept staff's recommendation and adopt the attached policy revision, and I so move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Chair, just if you don't have the agenda in front of you, it's 12 inches in diameter at the 4.5-foot level. That's considered, you keep it. Anything below that is removed for cotton-bearing trees.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries.
Thank you. And our last agenda item is the technology-enhanced traffic control policy. The motion is to accept staff's recommendation and adopt the attached policy. And I so move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt the enhanced traffic control policy. Any discussion?
Mr. Chair, obviously, there's a lot to this policy. It not only gives, but primarily it gives staff a plan to follow as what to do first, what to do next, before we start, before everybody wants a flashing light on their intersection. You know, have we done all we can do? Have we done our due diligence? Have we followed this policy? And any expenditures, of course, always come before the council anyway. For some of those ticket items can be 15 grand, I think we discussed. And of course, as soon as somebody sees one, everybody wants one, but you can't do that, and they also lose their effectiveness. So this gives kind of a roadmap for staff to follow.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries.
End of report.
Thank you, Alderman Bevins. That brings us to Personnel and Finance Committee. Alderman Badot.
All right, welcome, welcome. We have 7 items on our agenda, the first of which is the payment of bills, and I so move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the payment of bills. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote by roll call.
Stunek,
Yes.
Pritchett.
Yes.
Bevins.
Yes.
Badot,
Yes.
Erickson,
Yes.
Lampert,
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes, that motion carries.
All right, item number 2 is the Assistance to Firefighters Grant application. The motion coming out of committee is to authorize the fire department to apply for fire operations and PPE grant through the Assistance to Firefighters program. The total application request will be approximately $250,000 with a 10% local cost share if the grant is awarded, and I so move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
So this is the same grant that we applied for last year. We did not get it. We are applying for it again. If we were to get it, those matching funds would be about $25,000, and that would come from the Fire Capital Fund.
Excellent. Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries.
All right, item number 3, the Children's Museum Master Planning discussion. So there was a lot of discussion downstairs. We just have one motion in this, and then perhaps some discussion. The motion coming out of committee is to add up to $20,000 to the 2020 budget for potential use on a Lum Park master plan, and I so move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to appropriate up to $20,000 in the 2020 budget for a Lum Park master plan.
Plan, yes.
Children's Museum. Alderman Bordeaux.
So the initial request here had more items involved as well about coming to an agreement with the Children's Museum. We feel there needs to be more discussion about that to actually move that part of it forward. But it would be smart for us to at least get it into our budget that there is potential for that money to be there. And then moving forward, we can figure out what that agreement looks like, if there is one.
Okay, any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries.
All right. And the next item is Animal Control Services Contract. The motion coming out of committee is to approve the attached animal control enforcement proposal with Lakes Area Wildlife Control, including monthly reports.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
So this is the same item we had last time around. There is obviously the increase in the payments, and it would be, pretty much it's a third for 3 years. We do have a 90-day clause in there which we can terminate the contract, so we didn't feel that there was any need to actually evaluate this every year. However, we did think that making sure that there are monthly reports that are coming through so that we're keeping an eye on it would be a way of doing so.
All right, so it's going to be, sorry, I didn't read the deal. It's a 3-year deal?
It's a 3-year deal, yes.
And it didn't jump up to $34,000 the first year? It works its way up there over 3 years?
It works its way up there over 3 years.
Okay, that's
And
fair.
that gives us the potential to make sure that things are moving in the direction. There's a lot of pie-in-the-sky ideas as to where he wants to take this. This way, we're just making sure that that's happening.
Mr. Chair, is this monthly report, should that be coming through our council packet?
I think it's gonna go to court.
I think it's going to court, I believe is what.
They're probably going to end up in the same inbox as our monthly reports from our maintenance service agreement with the county.
They've traditionally gone to the city administrator.
Okay.
We can talk
Okay.
about that, and decide where they go, what they look like.
Yeah, if we could get a condensed half page as part of your monthly council report, that'd be
Yeah, that.
worthwhile. Any other discussion?
That's an effort with Baxter.
Hearing none, we'll vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries.
All right, the next item is the city administrator employment agreement with Jennifer Bergman. The motion coming out of committee is to approve the city administrator employment agreement with Jennifer Bergman as presented, and further to authorize signatures of city officials, and I so move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
So there were a couple items added. You probably have a copy of it in front of you there. Just some small details that were changed from what was presented. So we are agreeing to these additions as well.
So as presented includes this
Including-
attachment
including
A
this attachment,
language.
yes.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Jan?
the 160 hours, is that overflow for her previous position, or is this, is that,
I mean, it's technically her coming in with that as a bank's sick leave. So it can't technically be overflow because,
is it something, because she was a city employee, does it mean it's passing over to?
no, we're making a job offer and we're allowing her to bank 160 hours at the beginning of that employment.
It's the same thing we had when we hired Administrator Thurine the first time too. Is
Okay.
He just wanted to have sick leave, just, his
Oh, okay.
previous job, he did have it, so he wanted to have some coming on as a new job, so he wasn't just abandoning it all. So I think
Okay.
it's a
so-
similar situation here,
Okay,
just
I wasn't on with Ms.
to have a
Okay.
base.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. That motion carries.
All right, the next item is the deferred assessments. The motion coming out of committee is to approve the deferment for the applicant for assessment payable in 2020 for both of the PIDs 41191678 and 41191679, and I so move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
So this is two properties owned by the same person. They meet the requirements for hardship, and so we have a motion to proceed with deferment.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries.
All right, and the last item is the Memorial Park redesign and parking lot discussion. So this one's going to be a little interesting because we've got multiple phases to it, and probably some discussion that will need to take place. How do we want to address this?
Well, the floor is yours, Alderman Bill. Make the motion.
So we've got three motions. Let's go ahead and start with the item number one here, as we have it
Motion, no
listed.
discussion.
Yeah, we'll just go that route. The first motion is to enter into negotiation to purchase the parking lot from, I believe,
Mr. Higgins.
Mr. Higgins.
Brainerd
for-
Land LLC.
For the high-end assessed value of $223,000, and I so move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Okay,
You
so
kind of
this
showed
is-
our hand if we're going into negotiations with the budget.
Well, so here's the deal. Here's where this whole thing kind of comes into place here. Where we're looking at this project is as a project as a whole. And so we'll have other motions that'll fall in place with this as well. We're looking to do the parking lot purchase as basically an offer of kind of take it or leave it, because it's the high end of the two appraisals that were brought in, considerably different appraisals, but a commercial property there could potentially be put into use if it was rezoned. We feel that that's fair. However, what we'd like to see happen is the entire project for the Memorial Park capped at a $1.3 million, to have the parking lot portion of that removed from that total if it is in fact purchased, and that the remainder of those funds would then be used for the creation of the park. In looking at, and in myself being involved in the discussions for that park, there was a lot of, well, it doesn't hurt to add it, or, we might as well ask type of stuff. And so in going back through, I tried to kind of figure out where it is that we're on that. And there were a couple items that stuck out. The first of which was an item that I brought up myself. We removed some trees along field number 3, having played softball this last year for the first time. And it showed. In removing those trees, it was very hot on that field, and specifically for the children watching. So I had said, well, why don't we put up a small structure? That small structure went from what we have currently by Field 2, which is probably $5,000, to a $100,000 structure. And that's actually listed in the value that was presented. That immediately, I say, well, if that's something that the parks want, that's something they could put into a 5-year plan or something along those lines, much bigger than what we had thought. Plus, we're already looking at building a pavilion as attached to a warming house, because we wanted to follow a structure, which is what we did at Gregory Park, which cost us $280,000. However, in what was listed, it comes at $450,000. And my thought process on that was, if we just built something that's not good enough, then why do we build it? If we're immediately going to go right back into building another warming house, wouldn't we want to follow the warming house that we built? And if so, why did we build the one that we built? So in looking at it, I came down to being able to kind of remove certain items from there, get us to about 1.286, I believe was the number, of dollars that could give us a really nice park, accomplish all the things we've wanted to accomplish. We said, let's bump it up to 1.3 million, and then make the offer for the parking lot. If Mr. Higgins chooses to accept the offer, Mr. Higgins chooses to accept the offer. If not, we'll just roll it in and we get a better park.
Okay, So the motion on the floor is to enter negotiations with Brainerd Land LLC to purchase the parking lot for no more than the high appraised value from the appraisal report.
Yes, 223,000.
Any other discussion on that motion? Hearing none, we'll vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Then you have a second motion.
Okay, the second motion is to cap the entire Memorial Park project at $1.3 million, and I so move.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second to cap the entire Memorial Park project at $1.3 million.
Yep. So,
Any discussion?
Go ahead. My question is, when you said the 223,000 is or is not included in this price?
that would be included in that price.
That would be included, okay.
So again, getting back to the idea behind this is that we need to understand that the way that our park system is set up, the park board has the ability to control what they do with their parks. We control the money, they control what they do with it, but we've kind of lost sight of that a little bit. And in this, we need to say, this is the amount that we're budgeting for it, and what you choose to do with it, you can kind of pick and choose. One of the things I said downstairs was, there's a line item in there for a trail to go around the entire property. That's $107,000, I believe. Well, that's very similar to the structure that was $100,000. You know, maybe we pick and choose. You know, so we're not telling you what you need to build, but we are telling you that here's the amount, we're putting a cap on it, and go do what you're supposed to do with that property then.
Okay, I like what you're doing here. I think, especially with Parks Department, their budgeted numbers and the construction costs are never really in line, in my experience. But what recourse do we have after we approve 1.3 million? What if they spend $1.3 million and have 80% of a park? Are we going to say, sorry, we're not going to spend any more money?
Well, we are giving them the power to control what goes in the parks. That's really what the way that our system is.
And if 80% of a warming house is what they decide, that's what we're satisfied with?
Well, we would hope that we've chosen members of a park board that would not choose 80% of a warming house.
Because
but-
the Gregory Park warming house was budgeted at 200, and they came back and said, well, no, it's going to cost 400, and then we got it for 280.
That-
I'm making numbers up, but essentially that's what
That's the
happened.
situation that I want to avoid here. I want us to draw a nice firm line in the sand that says, we want to improve this park, we want to make the changes and move the items over.
The two hockey rinks that need to be moved.
The two hockey rinks, the warming house, but what we've done, what the park board has done with this is they went ahead and they said, okay, we have two hockey rinks and a warming house, which are only being used as hockey rinks and a warming house. In the summer, they don't get used as anything. They went in and then said, okay, well, let's cement the hockey rinks and let's put pickleball courts in there, perhaps basketball courts in there as well. Let's take the warming house and let's put a pavilion out the front so it can be used in the summer for people to rent out or for that sort of thing. And also adding new playground equipment, shifting the playground equipment to make it safer for the kids. They went at it from a standpoint of saying, if we're going to spend a big chunk of money, let's make sure that we're not just reappropriating items and moving them across the street. Let's make sure that we're taking a park and making it into a more cohesive unit. But in that case, at the same time, our job as a city council is to make sure that we're setting the budget. And I think that we need to become more firm in saying, we love what you're doing, but we want to make sure that when it comes down to the end, we're not talking about 1.7, we're talking about 1.3.
Okay, I can get on board with that, Jan.
Mr. Chair, so is there any way that comes back to, a master plan comes back to us for improvement? Or does that all stay with the park board?
This would be us authorizing them the money.
Just that, okay, and so they do a design and we wouldn't have any say if yay or nay?
I mean, it is a park board, they are people. We can have those discussions with them. However, their task is to control what happens in the parks.
I was just, Gabe had mentioned that they might just want to do the warming house, and it comes back to us and say, no, we think you could spend the money a little bit better.
Well, if they want to build a $1.3 million warming house, I think that would be a wild misuse of funds. But
I think we had that concern whether we cap it at 1.3 or go with the full amount. Same issue.
I I think, Jan, we could if we wanted to get real fine grained and act like we didn't trust the park board, whom I absolutely trust and
Yeah, and I don't
know you
wanna
too.
do that.
But if we didn't trust the park board, we could say, we will appropriate this much for this much for this much for this, and no
Okay,
more.
we
We could break it down
yeah,
on what
okay.
we are ordering to be built in the parks, and they can do it or not, but that's the only way the money is
Yeah,
spent.
I
But
would, that would, I
they
don't
can
want to go.
figure, they can
yeah, I
figure it
wouldn't do
out.
that.
Yeah, it brings up an interesting point of how our system is set up. The way that we're set up, the park board has control over what happens in the parks. We control the budget, and so typically, they make they make a request for a new structure or a new piece of equipment, and then we approve it, but we do it on more of an individual basis. In this, we're saying that it would be a larger project as opposed to just the one specific item at a time.
I think it's a great concept, and would be nice for I'm glad to see it, because I think it'd be very good for any committees that we have, so, or boards that we have that do that.
Any other discussion, Kelly?
Is it possible, Alderman Bedell, just to say, I like the concept. I'll approve the motion as is, but it would be nice to see how they're gonna spend it.
Yeah, we could.
I mean, we don't have to approve it, because it is their budget, but it would be nice to see it.
We can get updates, just require it
Yeah.
and request it.
Absolutely.
Maybe our council liaison can update us as.
Right.
That would be something that I could do.
Right, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, absolutely.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote at approving the project and capping the expenditures at $1.3 million inclusive of the parking lot. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. That motion carries.
And the last part of this is dealing with the money end of things. We have a motion to put $117,000 into the city debt levy for 2020. And I so move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to,
So to place $117,000 into the city's debt levy for 2020.
$117,000 into the city's debt levy for the year 2020. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Connie?
Just to add that that was what our debt levy was going to be reduced at our last budget budget workshop was $117,000. So we'd just be keeping our debt levy the same for 2019 for 2020 as we did in 2019. And that would then result in us needing about a 2% increase to our levy to have a balanced budget for 2020.
Well, we'll never get down there.
Mr. Chair,
Jan?
does this mean this money, this 117,000 is going to be totally earmarked? I mean, it's not something that we can, as a council, could take back, you know?
It'll be in the debt levy, I think.
Right, and then it has to be used for debt. The payment of debt. We can't take it and use it for operations. It needs to be used for debt, to paying off the debt.
Oh, so whatever it might be.
But the
You know, I'm
amount
sorry,
is
I'm sorry.
holding the debt levy flat from 2019 to 2020 instead of decreasing it, since it looks like we're going to have an issuance in 2021. So really, it's just saving for money we're going to borrow
Okay.
in the future.
Okay,
We'd be issuing this debt in 2020 when we issue the same debt for the equipment certificates as well as the 2020 construction projects. That's why the 117, we could structure it then so that we could have a debt payment. We'd actually be saving about $22,000 is what showed on the packet. But that was a little bit higher of a debt as well.
You got to spend money to save money, right? Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. That motion carries.
End of report.
Thank you, Alderman Bedeau. That brings us to the next item on our agenda, which is unfinished business. Let's start with a public hearing for discussion on the implementation and progress of the Small Cities Development Program Grant, CDAP 170019 FY18. And I will open the public hearing at 8 o'clock. Is anybody here to talk about the Small Cities Development Program? Anybody here to talk about the Small Cities Development Program? Anybody here to talk about the Small Cities Development Program? Seeing nobody come up, I will close the public forum at 8 o'clock. That brings us to the next item on our agenda, and that is the call for applicants. Mayor Menk.
Thank you.
Please note, when I announce the different terms available for different committees, they will all expire on 12/31 of the year that I state. Cable TV Advisory Committee, there are 2 terms expiring 2019, 2 terms expiring 2021. The Charter Commission, 1 term expiring 2019 and 2 terms expiring 2020. 1 term expiring 2021 and 1 term expiring 2022. The Housing and Redevelopment Authority, HRA, 1 term expiring 2019. Library Board, 4 terms expiring 2019. Park Board, 1 term expiring 2019. Public Utilities Commission, PUC, 1 term expiring 2019. Transportation Advisory Committee, 3 terms expiring 2019. Then
Council Presidents. Oh, yep, EDA.
EDA, we have 1 term expiring 9/7 of 2020. Then we have
That's it.
That's the rest are,
Airport Commission.
Let's,
rest are council president.
Yeah, Councilor, sorry.
Thank you, Mayor Menk. I have 3 positions that I need to appoint. One is the Airport Commission. We have an Airport Commission term ending at the end of this year. Get your applications in, please. Planning Commission, we have 3 terms expiring this year. If you want to help implement our brand-new, shiny, comprehensive plan, please apply at City Hall. And I am looking to fill 1 space in the Police and Fire Civil Service Commission. 1 term, also expiring at the end of this year. Other, Dave Badeau.
Yes, the Water Tower Fundraising Committee is looking for applicants as well. Looking to expand that group and move forward.
Okay, that moves us to 9C, which is a recorded vote to appoint Tad Erickson. It came to my attention that, well, we're a public body and we can't vote in private. We need to vote publicly, so let's publicly vote on how we voted to appoint Tad Erickson to the city council back in, was it October? We had 3 votes, September was it?
Yeah, it happened in September.
In the end of September. We'll need to figure out that exact date. But we had 3 rounds of ballots. Did anybody change their ballot in any of the 3 rounds? Or did we all just vote for the same person the whole time? So let's do a roll call then on how you voted in all 3 rounds of balloting.
I thought the mayor broke the tie.
you did.
So it wasn't,
There were 6 members, Tad didn't vote.
right.
It was 3-3.
3 to 3.
And then the mayor broke the tie.
Right.
Right.
And so that wasn't recorded?
It was not a public vote. Our
Well, it
constituents do
wasn't
not know
recorded
how we
who
voted.
voted for whom.
Okay, you're right. Okay. Stunek,
Yes.
Who'd you vote for?
Oh, Tad.
Pritchett,
Tad.
Bevins,
O'Day.
Badeau,
O'Day.
Oh,
Erickson.
He couldn't.
Oh,
He
sorry.
voted for Tad, but, you know.
Lampert,
Erickson.
Johnson,
O'Day, that was a tie vote, broken by Ed with the vote of
Erickson.
Erickson. And then that settled as Erickson is voted to the city council. So just,
You don't have to leave.
when you're doing the minutes, will you make sure that we say all 3 rounds of balloting went that way? That's
Okay.
how we all voted, and the mayor broke the tie. Good, we have that cleaned up. That'll move us on to item number 9, Planning Commission. The first reading of proposed ordinance number 1501, an ordinance to rezone property at 7757 Wise Road from RA Rural Agriculture to R1A Single Family Residential District.
Yes, Mr. President, so this rezoning, excuse me, of 7757 Wise Road, the purpose of this rezoning is to take this property, which is currently a 40-acre lot, and then move it to an R1A so they can do a lot split of less than 20 acres. In a RA rural agricultural, you have to, lot splits can be no less than 20 acres. And the purpose, they're trying to do a lot split they're proposing a lot split about 200 feet by 600 feet to split off a corner of the lot so they could build a home for the homeowner's mother-in-law. And so to do that, they did request a rezone to R1A Single Family Residential District. This did go through the Planning Commission on November 20th, and they did vote unanimously to recommend this rezoning. And again, as usual, for the first readings, we are recommending dispensing with the actual reading of this ordinance.
Looking for a motion.
Move to dispense with the actual reading of proposed ordinance number 1501.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to dispense with the actual reading. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries.
I'll make a motion to,
We dispensed with it. We don't need to do anything till next time.
oh, perfect.
That brings us to B, conditional use permit application submitted by ISD 181 for Garfield Elementary School, 1120 10th Avenue Northeast.
Yep, so this begins our last three conditional use permits for the school projects as part of the ISD 181's referendum. So this is for Garfield Elementary. There are conditional use permit is to add an addition on, including but not limited to classrooms, kitchen, office space, and a new parking lot. The Planning Commission again met and considered this application during their meeting on Wednesday, November 20th. After reviewing it, working through the whole plan with the ISD 181 staff and consultants, the Planning Commission unanimously approved the recommendation of the CUP, citing staff's findings, and no conditions were placed on the CUP application.
Okay, I have a question before we get a motion, actually. So there were no conditions. We're not asking for 13-foot lights in the parking lots in the neighborhood.
They had the 13-foot lights in their plan, so as part of this thing, we are approving the plan that they presented.
So they
And
presented Garfield, Lowell, Lincoln with 13-foot lights, and that's what we're approving.
Correct. And so this is just we'll have to do a one by one, but in their plan, they had 13-foot light poles.
Move to approve the CUP for Garfield Elementary School, citing the staff's finding of facts.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Mr. Chair, I comment on the planning and zoning. The school district and their consultants have been very forthcoming in helping us with what we request. And they made their plans of such. So,
Excellent. Good plans if we didn't even need to discuss it. Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Next up is the conditional use permit application submitted by ISD 181 for Lowell Elementary School, 704 3rd Avenue Northeast.
And this CUP application, again, is for an addition that includes but not limited to classrooms, kitchen, gym, and also another parking lot. Same date on November 20th, was considered by the Planning Commission, recommended unanimously, citing staff's finding of fact. Again, no conditions were placed on this application.
Looking for a motion.
I'll make a motion to to approve the conditional use permit application for Lowell Elementary School with the staff findings of facts.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Next up is the conditional use permit application submitted by ISD 181 for Riverside Elementary School, 205 West Washington.
And this brings us to our very final CUP application for this round of this referendum. This is for Riverside. In addition, for Riverside, it is a gym, some external finishes, and then a service entry update. Again, this was on the 20th by the Planning Commission, reviewed it, and unanimously approved the CUP, citing staff's findings of fact, and again, no conditions were placed on the CUP application.
So
Looking for a
move,
motion?
for
Second.
approval of the, okay.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Alderman Bordeaux?
So just in my conversation with David Chansky, this does not include any parking lot or lights.
So there was no lighting in their plan, so therefore there is no condition on their lighting. I talked to Councilmember Bordeaux. What this does mean is that there was no condition on it, so should they update their lighting at any time, it'll just be to whatever ordinance allows, because they aren't touching their lighting. With the other CUPs, we talked about lighting. Their plan included 13-foot lighting, so if they wanted to deviate from that, they'd have to come back and request. Lighting was not considered in the CUP application.
I'm fine with it. Riverside's in a largely commercial.
And they currently already have larger than lights in it, but I just want to make sure that everybody's aware that it's slightly different than the other two.
Okay. Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. And thanks for coming, consultants and school board. Fantastic job on your plans this time. No back and forth. That's amazing.
You figured us out.
That brings us to the next item on the agenda, which is the public forum. I'll open that at 8:11. Anybody here to speak at the public forum? Anyone here to speak at the public forum? We have people here to speak at the public forum.
Good evening, everybody. Mike Anglin, 15873 Old Stonebridge Trail, Brainerd. I'm here tonight as a member of Brainerd Restoration. We had a meeting recently, and we talked about what our project would be for 2020. Also just wanted to take the opportunity to thank you for all your cooperation on our project last year, which was the mural project. This year we've been talking with downtown business owners, and Brenda with Purple Fern, she's on Brainerd Restoration now, mentioned somehow installing speakers in downtown to have sound. And so during Christmas, we could have Christmas music, Street Fest, we could have certain music. So we really like that idea. We really got excited about it. We always want to do a project that is, all the money that we raise throughout the year would go to downtown. And it seems like something that could be to the benefit of the citizens, visitors, and also business owners and property owners. So I don't know if I'm requesting anything tonight other than just saying, here's something we want to do. Part of what we are planning to do, however, is to reach out to maybe some service organizations locally and just let them know what we've done, what we're up to. Also with the downtown golf event, we are the recipient of those funds, and so we like to let people know what we're raising money for. And so, managing what the sound is, getting approval to do that, I'm assuming we would work with city staff. But again, just prior to going out in the community and starting to raise funds for this, just wanted to take the opportunity since I was here tonight to say that, and then again, just to thank you all for all your cooperation with our projects. If you have any questions, I could certainly ask.
I have one question, Mike.
Yeah.
Unrelated to Brainerd Restoration. I'm sorry for putting you on the spot, but I was up late Thursday night reading the city charter. And it says, every year, the first meeting of December, the Public Utility Commission will present their annual budget to the city council for approval. This happens to be our first meeting in December. Just, I'm picking on you because you happen to be a commissioner.
Right.
Where's your budget?
Next meeting, we will be here.
The second meeting in December
second
this year.
meeting, yeah.
We'll have to, you'll want to talk to Joe. He's looking at our charter. We might need to change it from the first meeting to a meeting in December, just so everybody
Of our
can
choice,
comply.
apparently, yeah.
First meeting, but
I think that the BPU Commission approved the budget last Tuesday.
We did, that's
And
correct.
so it would have been a quick turnaround to get in the packet. I do have it. I'll be emailing it out to you tomorrow morning.
That's what a different commissioner told me on Thursday night, too. But when I heard
Some
about
fact
Brainerd
checking,
Restoration
maybe?
trying to do what, music downtown, speakers downtown, so we can
That's
pipe in
correct.
music for the Halloween event, the Christmas event, everything that's going on downtown throughout the year.
That's
I think
correct.
that is a fantastic thing to raise money for. I think it's
Okay.
really exciting.
So what we're proposing is to fund for all of it and do something that could be expanded and added on to later. We're thinking 7th and Laurel, just starting there.
But
Years ago, we did have a speaker system through the downtown. It became antiquated, got old. And then when we did the rehab of downtown with the streets and stuff, it was not put in the budget to do it at that time. I do thank you very much for doing it, or putting it together. It's, with modern technology, it's going to be much better than it was before. Because at that time, someone had to man it every day, basically. So thank you very much.
Yeah, our pleasure, and like I said, we'll reach out to city staff, maybe David behind me here, and we'll go that route with it.
yeah, I have a question, unless you have a question.
I just wanted to say that, I think it's a fantastic idea. Hopefully, it's better than the old crank system, the hand crank system that we had before. But also, if you can make it smell like Christmas,
That was going to be my question.
that's what I want. I want it
Interesting.
to smell like Christmas downtown every year. I'm saying that out loud again. I want it to smell like Christmas downtown every year. Somebody figure it out. Disney knows how to do it.
Hang
They've
out
got
by
a
the
patent.
bakery.
Figure it out.
She's
Great.
doing the peppermint frosting.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mike.
any artificial scent, I'm out of it.
Anybody else here to speak for public forum? Anybody else here for public forum? Anybody else here for public forum? We'll close that at 8:15. Bring us to staff reports, anything, updates since the packet, and we'll start with Tim, Tony, David, Paul.
Oh, sure.
Now yeah.
I just want to give a mad props to our city street department. We had over 16 inches of snow over the holiday weekend, and those guys worked all 3 days, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, to make sure that the streets were cleared. So a few new guys, so they're kind of learning the ropes, kind of putting the fire, but they did a good job in getting everyone home safe. So,
Amen.
Thank you. Joe? Corky? No. Connie?
Nothing.
All right, then that will bring us to council member reports. We'll start over here with Ed.
Well, I want to echo what Paul said. I've had a number of customers come in the store and said, thank you very much for the street crew. Yesterday, they were all able to get out and about, and some of their relatives were able to leave town because the street crew worked really hard. Also, Tom's Backhoe worked very hard to get downtown cleaned up yesterday. Something that happened on Saturday night at 5 o'clock, I felt real bad that it was myself, Troy, and one citizen that lit the tree at the corner of Laurel and 6th.
I was at the VF watching the Gophers, sorry.
Anyway, we lit it. We were supposed to sing, so I said, fa la la la, and flipped the switch. And then I'm a liaison with PUC. Something exciting is happening now at PUC. The PUC has gone and said we're going to work with the airport, and we're putting in a possible big, I think it's 5 megawatt or thereabouts solar array, which will allow the city to produce approximately 20% of the total electricity consumed in our city. We'll be ahead of the curve. I'm certain that in the next 5-10 years that there will be mandates. We'll be ahead of the game.
That's great news. I'm excited to double our green energy in the city of Brainerd.
Nothing to add.
I just want to kind of double down on what city engineer said. I mean, those plows were coming out and we were pushing a couple cars that were parked in front of a neighbor's house, and they came by and they swung by after we had them out. They could have very easily just plowed them right in there and kept going. So very much appreciative of that.
Yeah, I'll echo that. Great job on the street department, and welcome Jennifer Bergman back there. Congratulations on your contract.
I just saw a podium.
And an update on the HRA, we are having a special meeting this Thursday morning to go on figure out the process of how we're going to work towards replacing her as executive director over at the HRA.
Nothing for me, thank you.
Nothing to add.
Oh, good, I got a couple things.
Here we go. I'm ready.
You ready? Thursday, obviously, was Thanksgiving, and we did the community dinners at the Legion, just to throw out a thank you to Brainerd Fire, Brainerd Police, Baxter Police, and Crow Wing County Sheriff, the Elks, the Eagles, the Legion, and the VFW. We delivered over 360 meals into the community, and they were delivered by the entities I mentioned, and we served over 400 people sit down at the Legion. It was a great day.
Awesome.
Only thing to report is that the Vikings are playing right now. I haven't looked at the score, so I have no idea what it is, but I want to thank...
35-7, we're losing.
Is that true?
No, that's
okay,
not true.
Thank you. Don't ruin this for me. I just want to thank Jan for wearing her purple arm brace, for getting involved. Kevin and I are holding it down, Jan's holding it down. So that's the end of my report.
All right, so let's get a motion to recess to the budget and levy hearing on Monday, December 9th. We got a motion to
Second.
recess. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And then a motion to adjourn.
Adjourn.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned.
What, Dave? What'd you say, Dave?